Every culture has its monsters, but here's the truth, no one tells you. We didn't invent them to scare ourselves. We invented them to survive, because there's something more terrifying than any creature with claws or fangs. There's something worse than death itself. And that's not knowing how to behave when everything human disappears. Today we're going to descend through 3 types of horror that humanity has refined over millennia. They aren't just stories to scare children. They're ancient warnings about the 3 ways we can cease to be human. First, when hunger consumes us. Second, when the gaze of others judges us. And third, when our own body ceases to belong to us. Prepare yourself, because what's coming aren't monsters, they're mirrors. Don't go anywhere, we're starting. Part 1. The hunger that dehumanizes you. Imagine a winter in northern Canada 300 years ago. The snow has been falling steadily for weeks. The animals have vanished. The food supplies ran out days ago. Your family stares at you with hollow eyes. And then someone dies. The body lies there on the snow. And for the first time in your life, a dark part of your brain makes a calculation you should never have made. Protein, calories, survival. The Algonquian peoples of North America knew this moment. They feared it more than the cold, more than wolves, more than death itself, because they knew there is a point of no return. An instant where you cease to be human, not because you die, but because you choose to live, breaking the most sacred pact of our species. Thou shalt not kill thy neighbor, and definitely, thou shalt not eat him. That's why they created the Wendigo. But here's the important part. The Wendigo isn't just a monster, it's a curse. It's what you become when you cross that line. The creature is described as something that was once human. Ashy skin stretched over prominent bones. Ragged, a bleeding lips from biting human flesh. A putrid smell that announces its presence. But what's truly terrifying isn't its appearance, it's its curse. Because the Wendigo grows with each victim it devours, literally. Its body expands in exact proportion to what it consumes, but its stomach is never full, so the more it eats, the hungrier it becomes. It's a perfect metaphor for limitless consumption, for an appetite that feeds on itself until there's nothing left to devour. And this, of 400 years ago in a nomadic tribe, was more than a horror story. It was a policy of survival. Think of it this way. In a small community where everyone depends on everyone else, cannibalism isn't just a moral crime. It's the collapse of the entire system. Because if one person crosses that line, trust vanishes. No one sleeps soundly. No one turns their back. The group disintegrates from within. That's why the Wendigo myth was so brutal. There was no redemption. There was no cure. Once you ate human flesh, you ceased to be you. You became something else, something with your face but without your soul. And the community had only one option: eliminate you before the curse spread. Modern psychologists even coined a term for this: Wendigo psychosis. They used it to describe documented cases in the 19th and 20th centuries of people in northern communities who developed a paranoid fear of becoming cannibals. They panicked, now begging to be killed before they could harm anyone. In some cases, they actually attacked others. The line between myth and reality became blurred when extreme hunger triggered something primal in the human brain. But here's what the myth really tells us. The Wendigo doesn't punish hunger. It punishes choice. It punishes deciding that your life is worth more than the social contract. And that idea, that warning, hasn't disappeared. It's only evolved. We live in a society where endless consumption is the norm, where buying more, having more, consuming more is considered success, where corporations grow like Wendigos, feeding endlessly, expanding without limit, but never feeling satisfied. The monster has changed form, but the insatiable hunger lives on. And the question remains: how much are you willing to consume before you lose your humanity? The Wendigo watches you from the forest of our collective psyche, waiting for your answer. That's because you don't need to starve to death in the snow to face that choice. You only need to decide if there's anything you wouldn't do to survive, to thrive, to have more. If this first mirror already made you uncomfortable, like it now, subscribe, because the next horror doesn't haunt you out of hunger. It haunts you because it's watching you. Part 2. The beauty that punishes. Now, we leave hunger behind and enter another kind of horror. One that doesn't live in the forest, but in the streets. And one that doesn't kill you out of necessity, but for something far more twisted. For vanity, for shame, for the invisible crime of being judged and found deficient in the eyes of another. In Japan, during the last decades of the 20th century, an urban legend began to circulate. A beautiful young woman would appear on deserted streets after nightfall. She wore a surgical mask covering the lower half of her face, something perfectly normal in Japanese culture. In her hand, she carried a pair of scissors, and when you crossed paths with her, she would ask you a simple question: Watashi Kirei, which means, "Am I beautiful?" If you said no, he'd kill you on the spot. The scissors would flash in and out before you could even scream. But if you said yes, he'd take off his mask. And that's where the real horror began, because his mouth was slashed from ear to ear in a grotesque, permanent grin. Even so. And now you had two choices, both lethal. Say no and die. Yes, or say yes and be mutilated so your mouth would match his. A grin for all eternity. This is Kuchisake-onna, the slit-mouthed woman. And her story isn't just a ghost story. It's an X-ray of modern urban terror. Because look at what's really happening here. There's no physical escape. The creature is faster than you. There's no verbal escape. Every response leads to violence. The only thing that works, according to some versions, is to break the game completely. Tell her you have to leave. It's that she's average. Responses that refuse to participate in her trap. But why does this myth exist? Why did this particular phantom appear in Japan during the 1970s and 80s, a time of rapid modernization? Because Kuchisake-onna isn't looking for the right answer. She's looking for submission. She's looking for you to acknowledge her power to judge you. And in a society where appearance, proper behavior, and social judgment are omnipresent forces, she becomes the personification of the fear of not measuring up, of being seen as flawed, of being punished for something as arbitrary as an opinion about beauty. And here's the chilling part. Legend says she herself was a victim. A wife who cheated on her samurai husband. He discovered the betrayal and punished her by cutting her mouth, transforming her beauty into horror. But she refused to accept that sentence. She returned, and now she is the one who judges. She is the one who punishes. The cycle of aesthetic violence continues, each victim an echo of their own disfigurement. Let us now cross the ocean. For this horror is not exclusive to Asia. In England, in the lands of Leicestershire, there existed another creature, another female nightmare, another warning wrapped in claws and violence. Black Annis, a woman with a blue face, a single eye, and iron nails so long and sharp that she could carve caves in solid rock with them. She lived beneath an ancient oak tree. And during the night, she waited. She waited for children to wander too far from their homes. She waited for a window to be left open. And then she acted. She entered, snatched the child from their bed, and dragged them to her cave. There, with her metal claws, she skinned them. The skin was sewn into clothing. The flesh was slowly devoured. She was efficient. She was methodical. She was absolutely terrifying. But here's the fascinating part. Black Annis changed architecture. Houses in that region were built with smaller windows specifically to avoid her. Mothers sang songs about her to make their children obey. An educated man, John Hayrick, wrote an entire poem about her in all seriousness, believing in her existence. The fear didn't just live in stories. It lived in bricks, in wood, in the dimensions of your home's openings. And this is crucial. Both Kuchisake-onna and Black Annis are not just monsters. They are mechanisms of social control with a female face. As one punishes vanity and superficial judgment, the other punishes childish disobedience. Both use extreme violence as a warning. Both transform everyday spaces into hostile territory. The street at dusk, the open window, places where safety vanishes and punishment awaits. Beauty in these myths is not a gift. It is a weapon, a trap, a territory where the rules change without warning and where the price of a wrong answer is mutilation or death. These are creatures who ask impossible questions and punish honest answers. And deep down, what they are really saying is this: the world is watching you. The world is judging you. And if you don't behave exactly as expected, if you break the invisible rules of appearance and conduct, the punishment will be final. Part 3. The body that no longer belongs to you. We've talked about hunger. We've talked about judgment. Now, we come to the deepest terror. The one that wakes you in the middle of the night, your heart racing. The terror of your body ceasing to be yours, of something else inhabiting it, controlling it, using it as a tool while you remain trapped inside, conscious but powerless. This is what the latest creatures represent. And they are, without a doubt, the most disturbing. Let's begin in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, regions where the night is thick and the line between life and death seems thinner. There, the Krasu exists. During the day, she is an ordinary woman. She walks among the people. No one notices anything strange. But when the sun sets, something changes. Her head separates from her body, completely. And she flies off into the darkness with all her internal organs dangling from her neck like bloody vines. Heart, lungs, liver, stomach, intestines. All exposed, all visible, all out of place. And it is hungry. It seeks children. It seeks pregnant women. Sometimes only the fetus. Other times both. The creature feeds and before dawn must return and reunite with its body. If it fails, the sunlight destroys it. That is why traditional houses have barbed wire fences and thorny plants around them, not to keep out thieves, so that the Kreishu's intestines become tangled and it cannot return in time. Now, the important question, why this specific image? Why a flying head with exposed organs? Because the Kreishu embodies the most primal biological terror, the fear of a pregnancy gone wrong, of infant mortality, of childbirth complications. In societies without modern medicine, giving birth was a gamble with death. Infections, hemorrhages, and complications killed mothers and babies with terrible frequency. And when there was no scientific explanation, there were myths. Kreishu is not a random monster. She is the personification of the female body transformed into a threat. It's of the reproductive process turned into a nightmare, of the extreme vulnerability of being open, exposed, with your most vital parts out of place. She is the visceral horror of uncontrolled biology. And what is most disturbing is that the woman herself does not choose to be Kreishu. It is a curse, possibly for sins in a past life, possibly for breaking taboos. But once you are Kreishu, you no longer control when your body fragments. You don't control hunger. You don't control anything. And this brings us to the last creature, the most philosophically terrifying, the Vetala of Hindu mythology. Imagine this. You are a trapped soul. You are not alive. You are not dead. You are in limbo between worlds. No body, no rest, no destiny. Just formless existence in the cemeteries where your body was cremated or buried. And then you learn that you can inhabit corpses. You can enter dead bodies and use them as temporary vehicles to interact with the world of the living. This is a Vetala, a restless spirit that possesses corpses and reanimates them. But these aren't mindless zombies. They're intelligent, malicious, and they know things the living can't, because they exist outside of linear time. They see past, present, and future simultaneously. They know the darkest secrets of human nature. They are repositories of forbidden knowledge, and that's what makes them valuable. So much so that sorcerers seek them out. They capture them. They enslave them. Because a controlled Vetala is the perfect tool, an oracle, a weapon, a spy who can go anywhere and know anything. But the price is high, because working with a Vetala means desecrating graves. It means bringing corpses back. It means breaking the most sacred barrier between life and death. And here is the real horror. The Vetala do terrible things. They kill children, they cause miscarriages, they drive people mad. Not out of gratuitous evil, though they certainly possess it. They do it because they are trapped, because they are souls without liberation, without peace, without purpose except torment. They are the result of incomplete rituals, of botched funeral ceremonies, of bodies abandoned without respect. What the Vetala tell us is this: there are things worse than death. There are intermediate states where not even your corpse belongs to you, where someone else can use it, where your identity dissolves and you become a tool, yet an empty vessel for the will of another. It is the fear of losing control not only of the living body, but of the dead body, that not even in death will you find rest. And when we combine the two creatures, the Kreishu and the Vetala, we see the same theme from different angles. The Kreishu shows the body fragmented against its will. The Vetala show the body occupied by another consciousness. Both say the same thing. Your body is not a fortress. It is not a safe haven. It can betray you, and it can abandon you. It can be taken over by forces you don't understand and can't control. And that fundamental loss of sovereignty over your own flesh and blood, is the most intimate terror there is. So, here it is. 3 categories of horror, 3 ancient warnings: the hunger that turns you into a monster, the judgment that mutilates you, the body that is no longer yours. And the important thing, what truly matters, is that none of these creatures exist to scare you for no reason. They exist to teach you where the lines are that you shouldn't cross, to show you what happens when humanity unravels. They aren't fantasies. They are dark mirrors reflecting our deepest fears. And they're still here, changing shape, adapting to new cultures, because fears never disappear. They just wait. If you enjoyed this descent into darkness, like and subscribe. See you in the next abyss.